Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what, I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people. Right. You want people to care. You want to strike emotions. And I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one too.
Quarter pounder with cheese and France, Mickey? What? Royale with cheese, Mickey. Yeah. I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Hey everyone, you are listening to Superhero Speak, and I'm your host Dave.
And John.
And this week, boys and girls, JD is on special assignment. He is busy with wrestling stuff, I think. That doesn't sound right.
Yes, that's special. I mean, an assignment. Yes, it is both of those.
But in his place, we have a friend of the show, host of House of D podcast on YouTube. You know him, you love him. He actually writes a lot of great reviews on our website now. And of course, it's D Square. How you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. See how that works? JD insults me, and now I'm taking his place.
Oh, he's going to love that.
Well, this wasn't planned at all.
No, not in the least. All right, so we have some casting news about the Batman movie. We also have a interesting topic I want to get into about is HBO Max going to be taking over the DC stuff, and we also have a discussion topic and an interview with the Stabbity Bunny guys. So if all of that sounds interesting to you guys, you ready to go?
Absolutely.
But before we get to all of that, how is everyone doing? How is everyone's weeks this week? Do anything fun? Oh, sorry. My phone just reminded me we're supposed to be recording. Do anything fun, Donald?
Just, really getting, more of the Dawn of X content, something, I'm of course a huge X-Men fan for those of you that, don't know. So that stuff's coming out pretty fast and furious. We had Excalibur, come out last week. And then this week we've got X-Force, which I'm excited about because they've got Colossus on the cover, so maybe I might see him. And then the New Mutants, which is highly anticipated. So I'm still having a really good time with all that finally quality writing on these X-Men series. So I'm definitely pretty stoked.
Cool.
Now that's the thing. They definitely have been ramping up the X books again. You think that's because it's all under the movie rights are all under one house again?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because before, they're like killing them off. You have to excuse me. I am so sorry about that.
That's all right. No problem. Hey,
we consider that ambiance.
Yes.
Screaming kids, dogs barking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being robbed at gunpoint while you're on the audio. It's all the same.
To be fair, we asked you to do this last minute, so.
Yes, well, and of course they want nothing to do with me any other time. Mom's the superstar of the house.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're paying attention to other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah. But to answer your question, absolutely. Now that they're home and they're not losing money with merchandising and stuff like that,
right?
You can definitely tell that they've went from we're destroying the X-Men, it's down to 196 mutants, and now one of their main directives, in the comic book, the mutants have 3 laws now, and then one is kill no man. Killing mutants is fine because they can revive them now. Krakoa is sacred land, and number 3 is make more mutants. So they're reviving mutants from back that were killed, as well as they're encouraging, hey, mutants, Yeah, multiply here in our paradise. So yeah, it's a 180-degree shift from where it once was. And I'm just very glad, very, very glad.
Yeah, and I felt like they were rebooting the X books every 6 months for a while. And, you know, they had 1 or 2 titles out, and now it's like Excalibur's back. And
yeah, which is cool. I mean, it makes sense the way they're doing it. You know, Excalibur's really all about the magical and the mysticism, dealing with other world, and you can find it all out on my channel. But anyway, but yeah, it is definitely cool for them to actually have a cohesive story now, instead of, like you said, just rebooting, redoing it, trying and finding something that works. But I have one piece of umbrage with what they're doing, and that is only that X-Men, Uncanny X-Men number 22, where they left off before the Hickman reboot, they haven't bridged that gap for me yet. And I'm going down a rabbit hole, but I would just like to see them bridge the gap a little bit. I'm kind of confused. And again, this is somebody who's been paying attention on how they got from there to, oh, boom, Xavier's back, and he always wears Cerebro, and yeah.
Right.
And how about continuity?
Yes. How about you, John? Anything interesting this week?
No.
Somebody's
is that
in a mood tonight.
Do I need to expound upon
it? Somebody's in a mood tonight.
No, I did finally see Joker.
Okay.
So
now wait, Donald, have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. I know my brother Volsker has. You know, not to say that you discouraged me from doing something, Dave, but I totally get what you're saying about, like, as a movie. Oh, you know, great. It's a wonderful movie. As a Joker movie, you know. And I posed a question to my brother on our podcast, like, well, what if this is like the inspiration for all the Jokers from this point onward, you know, and you've talked about that. Mm-hmm. And that kind of makes me interested in it, but yeah, I haven't, it's hard to get me out to the theaters, and it's just didn't get me over the hump.
All right. So that being said, John, what did you think?
Well, you know what? I'm of two minds about it. And I went to see it with another friend of mine from work. And we discussed it a little bit after, and I think what it comes down to is pretty much what everybody else is saying, which is, if you look at it as a comic book movie, it's not really in that wheelhouse. It wasn't designed, it wasn't written, it wasn't directed as a comic book movie, or what we now consider a comic book movie. It was you know, Cannes Film Festival fodder. It's right. You know, looking for an Oscar fodder. So, you know, it was done as high art, not as a comic book movie. And if you take out the need for a comic book movie, you know, just like pare that out of your psyche while you watch it, it's actually a really interesting study in somebody just descending into madness.
Right.
So if you look at it from that point of view, it was really good. As long as you're not, yeah, they could have done this without the Joker angle, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah, I definitely agree. It's so funny too, cause like, it's weird. It's the issue that I have with the movie is a weird issue. And I don't know if I want to say it because it could be a spoiler if anyone's worried about being spoiled at this point.
No, I'm not.
Okay. My issue with the movie, and I know this is going to sound weird because again, they're wrapping it in a Joker movie, right? Like the Joker, as we've said before on this podcast, he should be a force of nature. You should be afraid of him. He comes in and creates chaos and whatnot. Everyone that he kills in the movie, he has a reason why he does it. It's revenge. There's no random killing in the movie at all.
That's not true. The last one was definitely random.
No,
I mean, slightly.
No, that was revenge for him showing the making fun of him on his show.
No, not that one. The very last killing. He killed that woman.
You think so?
He walked out. He was trailing blood. He definitely killed her. That's the thing though. What you're getting back to is you're still couching it as a comic book movie, You know, it's if you don't look at it like that, You can enjoy it like you could enjoy something like, I don't know, Citizen X or Whiplash or, a really artsy movie, right? Something that makes you think deeply and feels, but, but again, they, like you said, they couched it in this Joker mythos, and it doesn't quite fit the Joker mythos that, us fans know and love, which is, it's okay as long as it's a standalone movie.
Right.
If they come out with a Joker 2 movie and put Batman in it, then everything goes to hell.
Right. And there's already rumors they're doing a Joker 2, so.
Well, of freaking course.
That is surprising.
Yeah.
Because from what I understand, Joaquin Phoenix does not do sequels.
And he'd be right in this case too, but then that would mess with the chart.
And does that stop the corporation and the machine from going, hey, you know what? We'll recast them.
Nothing stops the corporation.
No. Nope. And they could recast him because we're getting a new Joker in every movie now.
Maybe that's the new thing.
Oh man, this is true.
The Joker's going to be like Doctor Who. It's going to be a celebrity of the month.
Wow.
Oh, not quite like Doctor Who, but still, who was your favorite Joker? I mean, come on.
Oh my God, you could be onto something. That's scary.
Well, it's DC, so it definitely will be scary. I mean, the outcome, not the movie itself.
Right. So what have I been up to?
Who cares? No, go.
Wow.
I love you, Dave.
Well, my time machine worked.
Why my grandparents are disappearing out of that photography. Okay.
No, so like, all right. One of my best friends from, grade school. I've known Dan for a long time. Every year his company does a fundraiser to raise money for cancer research. And, this year they did a giveaway with a pair of concert tickets to see the Hooters. And it was basically anyone who donated over $50 was put into the drawing for the tickets. And, we had donated before the tickets were even an option. So I will say I feel a little guilty that my wife's name got pulled out of the hat. But we enjoyed the concert anyway.
You shouldn't feel guilty. You put the money in before you even knew it was a possibility, which, means you deserve even more.
So I went and saw the Hooters. For those who are too young to know, they're a band that was popular in the 80s. And they're from Philadelphia. So that's why every year they do a show. I can't think of the name of the theater. It's in, Horsham. So it's close to Philly. And, they do a show there every year around this time, around, Halloween. So it's just 2 nights and then they tour other places for the rest of the year. So, it was fun.
You talking the Ambler Theater?
No. Keswick, the Keswick Theater.
Keswick. Okay. Yeah, I know Keswick. Oh.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. They played all their hits, and it was funny too, cause, those who remember, their biggest hit was, And We Danced, and, they played that and ended the show, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess they're not going to do an encore. They came out and did an hour-long encore.
Whoa.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a long night for a Friday night when I've worked all day, and then to go to like almost 3 hour concert was like, oh, I was tired the next day.
It's like they don't realize that their audience is,
No, they realize. Cause they're all in their like late 50s, early 60s themselves. So yeah.
Nice.
But
at least they got the energy to do that. That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know how. And it's funny cause, if you guys remember, there's the 2 main guys, are Rob Hyman and, Brazilian. I can't think of Eric Brazilian. The 2 main singers and songwriters of the band. And it's weird because, and Eric Brazilian's the dark-haired one. He looks better today than he did in the 80s, and it's weird. And it doesn't look like it's plastic surgery. He just aged really well. And it made me like, kind of upset. It's like, you look better than I did in the 80s. Yeah.
Sometimes that happens.
Yes. Yeah. And then the other thing is, I watched a movie on Netflix. Have either of you seen My Name is Dolomite?
Wait a minute. Is it the 70s? Or...
No, Eddie Murphy did a biop picture about
that. Okay.
The actor who made those movies.
It was a blaxploitation film. The Dolomite.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's him and Wesley Snipes and Snoop Dogg is in it, and like it's basically a who of like African American comedians and actors. Chris Rock is in it, and it's actually surprisingly really good. So I recommend, if you haven't seen this, like, to go jump on your Netflix and watch it now, or after you're done listening to this episode.
Yeah, Dolomite itself was one of those so bad it's good movies.
Yes.
It's fun to watch it with a couple of beers and a lot of popcorn, but I didn't know that there was a biopic. I'm going to have to see that.
Yes.
Does it mention him appearing in the ICP movie? Is that part of... That's the only reason I even know Dolomite. So ICP has a movie out there, if you didn't know, called Big Money Hustlers. It's the most ridiculous, dumbest thing out there. But for whatever reason, Dolomite is in there. Dolomite is like one of the mentors of the hero of the story.
It's awesome.
The movie goes through, I can't think of the actor's name. It goes through basically him starting out his career. He was like an MC, and then he started doing stand-up comedy, but he did it in like a rhyming fashion. So a very early influences to the rap community, and then he put out a comedy album himself, and it sold like gangbusters, and he was touring the country supporting it, and then he was watching a movie, and he was like, I want to make a movie. So like he made it himself, the first one, Dolomite, and so basically the movie takes you up through like the premiere of that movie, and like
okay.
Yeah, and then that's where it ends. So yeah, it doesn't go into all that stuff, but
okay.
Yeah.
That's funny though, because in that movie, every word, every line he says rhymes with the last one. Yeah. And his protege, which is Shaggy Two Dope, does the same thing. Yeah. Stupid things I used to watch in my 20s.
We all have those. All right, so that's enough of our nonsense. Let's get on to some social media madness here.
Other nonsense.
Yes, other nonsense. So the first one's just a nice shout out we got from Geek to Me Radio. They said very solid Star Wars discussion, gents. Yeah, but we still weren't able to convince you, John.
Yeah, nope.
One day.
Nope.
Well, I get it. I truly do. I love all things Star Wars, and you guys mentioned the comments about it being for different generations of kids, and that's certainly true. But make no mistake, I understand where John's coming from with this. Being a major fan of Star Wars, you really would like to see them take it a bit more seriously, make sure that everything makes sense and isn't stupid. But yeah, they just decided not to go that way, and to make sure that they are marketing it to the kids of this generation. So I've learned to like it. But truth be told, I definitely understand where John's coming from this. It's like, if you could please take this a little bit more seriously, that would be great. But
and they probably have a lot more of a fan base too.
Yeah, but again, they've obviously gone with, we need to sell more toys. We need to sell Jar Jar plushes and, whatever those little monsters from, The Last Jedi was.
The Pogs or the...
Yeah.
Hey, Kate, the next one's got horses riding on a Star Destroyer. I mean...
Oh, for this shit.
That's going to attract the My Little Pony crowd.
No,
Come
it's
on, John. That should make you happy.
It's not even close. Come on.
All right. And remember we had talked about Jared Leto trying to sabotage the Joker movie from being made. So Dan Kurtz said he was never Joker. He was hipster Ronald McDonald. I liked the quote, so I wanted to include it in the episode.
That is funny. That's exactly what it is.
Mission accomplished.
McDonald if he shopped at Hot Topic. You know?
I was going to say it was his darker days. His what do they call those? The genre where they shop at Hot Topic and they dress in black.
Goth
yes.
Ronald McDonald.
Ronald McDonald. All right. And then speaking of the Joker and our views on it, we had D. Colbert. He obviously listened to the episode, listened to my review of the movie, and this was his opinion. I think it misses the mark. I'm not a huge DC fan, but DC villains tend to be far more complex than from Marvel. The book makes Joker the most three-dimensional in either universe. He was fully fleshed out and far darker than any previous incarnation. They elevated him to a psychopath as deadly as Hannibal Lecter by the end of the movie, and like Silence of the Lambs gave us compelling reason why, and I think that makes him a far more interesting character. He may not be a four-color comic supervillain. This Joker would be perfect in a dark graphic novel, though. And then he said, I mean, the review misses the mark, not the movie. It's interesting. And like, again, I don't think, thanks for the comment, but I don't think you understood our issue with the movie. We're not saying it's a bad movie, but does it appeal to the core audience of the comic book fan? You know, people who've been fans of the Joker in the comics for generations, you know, this isn't really that Joker.
Yeah.
So.
Because the whole point of Joker is you don't know where he came from. Right.
Yeah, I think that's always what makes him, as I said before, a force of nature.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think it jives well. I with like your common moviegoer, normie, whatever you want to call them. You know, it's kind of just cultural appropriation where things that we have supported for decades and now it's being used by a wider audience, which is great. You love everything like this coming to the forefront, but now we kind of see how flippant, that these characters that we love can be treated sometimes.
Right.
And so that's where I think, you know, that's a frustration on our part. That's all. You have everyone that has been on this podcast has said, oh, it's a great movie. No one has said anything ever. I've heard through and through, Joker's a great movie. I just don't know. It's just not a good comic book movie.
Exactly.
I don't. That's totally fair. So yeah, I think he's misinterpreting that there.
All right. Well, having said all of that, if you would like to be part of the conversation and get a shout out on the show, make sure you're following us on social media. That's at Superhero Speak on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, also you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Superhero Speak. And while you're on Twitter, don't forget to check out hashtag Geek World All Stars and check out all the other great podcasts in the Geek World All Stars podcast network, which includes us, Pop Prism Power Podcast, Fans on Patrol, Cult 45, So Wizard Podcast, and the Gorilla Brain Podcast. So make sure you check all those guys out. And that being said, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
And we're back. Did you miss us?
No, they did not miss us.
All right, well, let's move on to the news then. All right. So the big news, I think this week is they have officially not only announced Spierverse 2 is going to be made, they gave us a release date of April 2022. So are we excited for this movie, guys, or not, or what?
I'm excited for anything that is good, and certainly Into the Spider-Verse was, you know, high quality stuff. Absolutely. I just wonder if this new release date is kind of like, okay, stop talking about live action Spider-Verse because Spider-Verse 2, here you go. But I mean, hey, if it's great, I mean, gotta love a great, great comic book content.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, yeah, I mean, as long as they haven't, put it back in the hands of the execs, like, oh, this made money. Now I'm going to tell you what the next one's going to be about.
Yeah.
As long as they leave it in the hands of the creative team that made the first one or people like that, they'll be fun. And it will probably be awesome. I mean, the first one was fresh and it was really good. And I am still super surprised that it came from Sony. So, which says something. So yeah, as long as they don't mess with the creative team and let them, they have to expand. They can't just do the same story over again. Don't pull a Star Wars on it. So, I'll definitely go see it. I have high hopes.
I say as long as there's less Spider-Gwen in it, it's fine. Though I get concerned with a movie like this. Before they even have a script and a confirmed cast, returning and new cast members, giving a release date, because correct me if I'm wrong, didn't it take like 4 or 5 years to make the first one? So now we're going to give them half the time to give us a sequel. Like, does that concern anyone? Because animation's a much different animal than live action, and also this was, they mixed animation styles together. They did traditional for Spider Pig and different kinds of computer animation depending on the world that the characters were from. So,
well, part of that time would be putting together the character models and such. So they've already got the character models, and they could spend just a little bit of time tweaking them, and then you just get to the animation. So
yeah, but
they could cut a little bit of time like that.
But if you want to introduce a new world, a different Spider-Man,
Well, yeah, but that's, again, you've got like all of the character models that you need, the models for the plain Joes in the background, the cityscapes. So if you've got all that done and you're just going to reuse that, it's, you can shave a year off probably. But yeah, I mean, it is, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard these days. You could also put it up to the fact that computers get faster every 3 years, so they can render it quicker.
True. But again, like with live action, you can be working on the script up to, the minute you're going to start filming. You can't do that in animation. You've got to have the script and all that done first before you start animating it. I don't know. I just feel like it's too aggressive of a timeline. And what concerns me was that dictated by the filmmaker saying, oh yeah, we can have it done by 2022, or was that Sony going, all right, here's the release date, give us a movie,
Lovely.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dave. I'm kind of, now that you kind of said that, I think it's more of the latter, where the execs are saying, okay, listen, we want a payday on this date, make it happen. And then so to John's point there, like he said, well, they've got the models already, so I hope that doesn't mean that it's going to be like cookie cutter and that they're not going to be introducing a lot of other cool stuff because, well, crap, we've only got so much time to do this, so yeah, let's throw it together and give the execs the payday that they want, or else we'll be fired.
Right. So, I don't know. I guess we'll have to keep our eyes on this one. Hopefully they'll say the script is written in next week, that they've been working on it since the first one,
Yeah, fingers crossed that they're smarter than us and they got it handled. Let's hope that's the case. But unfortunately, we are let down most of the time.
Exactly. All right. So we've been talking a lot about people hating on the Marvel movies, and it just feels like they keep all backtracking a little bit now too. So Francis Ford Coppola, who had called the movies despicable, and it was all over the place, has now said the despicable quote was a misinterpretation, a mistranslation of what he meant.
Convenient.
He misspoke. it was misinterpreted. He's sorry that other people were offended by what he said. Yeah, I've heard those, just all those excuses. Sure.
So what's interesting is that his biggest complaint, and to a point, he's got a somewhat of a point, is that his problem is they become formulaic, the movies, and they keep cranking all these movies out. So you're getting basically the same movie over and over again to a point, you know.
Well, if it's good, I mean, Coke has a formula, and we'll drink that all the time because it doesn't get any worse. I mean, yeah, they're a little formulaic, but they're done well. You know, they make you forget the formula, and that's like the magic. If you're a director and a writer and you can make people forget that there's a formula, hey, that's great.
Right. And with all the money they make, I mean, it's just, I talked to somebody at work about this today, and I told them, I'm like, I don't understand this type of director, Coppola, trashing these movies. Is it jealousy? Is it because when me and my family go down to sit down to watch a movie, get some popcorn, we're popping in Guardians of the Galaxy, we're popping in Avengers, we're popping in Spider-Man. We're not popping in The Godfather and, Taxi Driver and all those movies that the person that I was working with says, but don't you want to watch a movie where you see something, people work it out in their heads and they work together and it's a real event. And I had to explain to her, like, well, no, I don't. I mean, that's interesting, but we get all these fantastical type of scenarios and comics and video games, playing Dungeons and Dragons with 4 other people where we've clearly bitten off more than we can chew, and now we have to find a way to not get killed by this dragon. So it's just a different type of film, and I think they should show respect, not only because it's just the amount of money they make, but the amount of theaters that they're in. Now, mind you, back when those movies came out, there weren't 10 and 20 screen multiplexes, so okay, maybe today's movies have that advantage, but nonetheless, you just can't argue with the sheer volume of people that these Marvel movies, these comic book movies touch. So I think it's a little bit of sour grapes, just kind of like it's not his style. So yeah, he says despicable, or the translator says that. Again, convenient.
Well, who here would want to see a superhero movie by Francis Ford Coppola?
well, we kind of got a Scorsese Joker movie, so
kind of.
Yeah. My counter argument is, aren't all blockbuster movies anyway formulaic? Like, yes, people know there's a formula, but they accept it as long as the spices and the things that go into it are a little different every time. Also, to your coworker's argument of wanting something realistic, like, no, I hate that argument about movies. I go to movies to escape. It's escapism. I want to be entertained for 2 hours and not think about the world around me. I don't want anything about the real world, for most part, creeping into the movies I'm watching. Like, I'm trying to get away from that. So saying that this movie's better because it's more realistic, to me, is the counterproductive. It's entertainment. I want to be entertained, not reminded of what's going on in the real world. So, yeah, I mean, if I want that, I'll just go on Facebook for 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, look at the internet. We get to see all these horrible videos, all that we could ever desire. So yeah, like you said, you go on Facebook, go on YouTube for 5 minutes, and you can see how the rest of the world is crap. So yeah, let me get my comic books and my video game, and let's escape this reality. And so yeah, we've just evolved as a people.
Right. Yeah, I don't know anymore.
Who does?
Oh, okay. So to stay into the Marvel a little bit, real quick, Peyton Reed has been confirmed to be directing Ant-Man 3, so he'll be continuing on with that franchise as he's done so far.
Cool.
Are we excited about this? Do we want an Ant-Man 3?
Yeah, I do. I mean, they're enjoyable. They're not the greatest movies in the Marvel franchise, but they're nice. I love them. As long as they do more of the heist type stuff, I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Rudd is just hilarious in that role. And just like John said, am I going to a midnight release of Ant-Man 3? No. But am I going to watch it? Absolutely. It's going to be a good time, especially now that it's Ant-Man and the Wasp. So there's a lot they can do there to have the director continuity. Absolutely. I mean, am I super excited? No, but am I glad? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I like the directions of the movies. And, as long as it's centered around heist, then it's going to fit. Anything beyond that, it needs to be in an Avengers movie.
Yeah. As long as it has Michael Pena in it, I'm happy. That's
sure.
That's all I need. They could leave Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly out of it for a little bit. As long as Michael Pena's around, we're good.
I think Michael Pena was the one element missing from Endgame.
Yeah, he was.
I did expect to see him.
Yeah, he could have just recapped the whole thing right before the end. That would have been perfect.
That would have been funny.
I mean, yes, I love the Ant-Man movies, though. I do kind of feel like at one point they went, well, he can shrink down and he can become big, and they didn't, and he's a thief, and they didn't think outside of those three elements. So I'm kind of curious where they're going to take his story, especially now he was so involved in Endgame. He was such a key component to that, not again, they make it a heist movie, but show how that affected him as a hero,
But his daughter supposedly gets powers, doesn't she? In the Marvel universe?
Yes. I mean, they'll I'm sure they're going to go down that road. I think that has something to do with Phase 4 or 5. But we shall see. There's the Kang the Conqueror rumors out there. So.
Oh boy. They should really give that a little bit more time. That is, boy, Kang is a really intricate character. I would really like to see how they're going to pull that off.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, of course, the MCU version would be different from, I think, the comic book as well, in some ways.
It would have to be, or people's heads are going to explode.
Yeah, of course.
Wait, he's from this time, and what? Pop.
But, again, they've introduced time travel into the MCU, so there's no going back from that,
Ugh, time travel. Oh, I mean, that is just such a high wire act. Keeping time travel from ruining every storyline. So, good luck with that.
Yeah.
If anybody could do it, though, it'd be Marvel at this time.
At this time.
Like DC, it would, if that franchise could be ruined anymore, they would do it with time travel.
Well, speaking of DC, we did get some casting news. Jeffrey Wright has been confirmed as Commissioner Gordon for the Batman movie, so that should be good. I don't understand, there have been a couple people complaining online about it, but what are you going to do,
Oh, for crying out loud.
I've learned to stop doing that with Heath Ledger, and I kind of did it a little bit with Ben Affleck, and both times I was like, no, wait a minute. These guys are actually good. I'm just mad at Affleck for giving up on it. I saw him, I was like, cool, hey, that's Batman, and poof, he's gone. But yeah, you got to give him a chance. I mean, it's not just because there were some changes, the race change or whatever. He's a good actor. He's going to do a great job. Commissioner Gordon is American, so it's not like they have to worry about him being from another country or anything of that nature. So yeah, complainers, just stop. Just give it a chance.
Just as long as they get the characterization right, his relationship with Batman is what matters the most. His relationship with his family and the effect of the crime on his family and the reasons and how that pushes him to work with Batman. That's the important part.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Agreed. And also, I did not include this link in the email, guys. I'm sorry, because I saw this right before we got online.
You just wanted us to come in cold on this one.
Apparently there is an actor who is in talks to play the Penguin. Colin Farrell is in talks to play the Penguin.
How many bad guys is that now?
That would be 3.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
DC.
But my question is, really? Colin, like, just an Irish, Penguin? I don't know.
Yeah, I would much prefer Jason Alexander over Colin Farrell for sure. I think he would do a good job.
I do.
I think he's got the right body type for it and everything. Slightly taller Danny DeVito. Go with Jason Alexander, DC. Do the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we did just talk about not prejudging, but he just he just feels like an odd choice for the Penguin. Like, I could see him playing a lot of different DC villains, but not the Penguin. I don't know why.
Yeah, to me, it's just, and you know what? I didn't see it with Hugh Jackson, and I was wrong there. So, yes, to your point, maybe shouldn't judge, but I'm just not seeing it initially. That's what I'll say. I don't initially see it.
Right.
Colin Farrell as Danny DeVito playing the Penguin? Is that what we're got?
Yeah.
But then again, it's also, this just came out and he's only in talks, but usually it follows when they say they're in talks, it comes out like 2 days later, they're confirmed because, it's weird to release they're in talks unless they're close. So we shall see. This is wrapping up to be an interesting movie. So we have Catwoman, Penguin, and Riddler.
So we have beginning to feel familiar.
so we have Batman Returns meets Batman Forever.
Yes. If they come out and say, and Two-Face,
then we're in trouble.
And let's throw Bane.
Oh. let's add Bane to it.
No. And Arnold Schwarzenegger reprising his role as Mr. Freeze. No.
I guess, hey, he was freezer burned. Well, how else are you going to explain how old he is?
Right.
Should have used the Glide freezer bags. Oh, well.
Oh, my God. That's just wrong.
You know what? I got to admit, I'm a pun guy. And for that reason, a guilty pleasure of mine is all of his puns.
Yeah, they were horrible, but in such a great way.
Let's kick some ice. Oh, that gets me every time.
Oh, man. So I'm going to pose the question to our audience. What do you think of Colin Farrell, and should Arnold Schwarzenegger come back as Mr. Freeze? I'm afraid of the answers we're going to get.
Colin Farrell was not Deadshot. What's his name?
Bullseye.
Bullseye.
The Daredevil movie. Yes. That's also a reason I have an issue with him playing another comic book villain.
Okay, sure. He's just going to wind up being another Korga from the Highlander. Just a whacked out bad guy with his tongue sticking out and just crazy and no depth. So.
All right. So, speaking of weird DC news, have you guys been following this HBO Max stuff? Apparently, the Arrow producers are going to bring a Green Lantern series and DC Anthology to HBO Max, which is going to be their streaming service. And there have been rumors for a while that the DC app is going to be going away. So,
how am I not surprised? I mean, didn't we predicted this? I mean, everybody predicted this. Back when they started canceling shows that had just started, like Swamp Thing.
Right.
And they blamed it on like accounting errors, but come on, man.
Which I heard that was decent.
Yes.
It was decent. It was very decent. It was, much better than some of the other stuff on TV by far. So, Yeah, everybody. I mean, we knew that this was coming along at some point, right? Being as how Warner owns both.
And The Watchmen is on HBO, so
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's a thing.
Yeah.
Well, because everyone's crapping their pants with this Disney, Disney Plus, which it releases tomorrow, right? I think. But
yeah.
So this is obviously in response to that.
So the people over at DC Universe put out a statement and basically were saying, "Oh no, don't fear HBO Max. They're a friend of ours."
Yeah.
They're going to be working in conjunction with us. And it's just like, it makes me wonder, do the people who are running DC Universe not know what's going on? And I'm only saying this, and John, you can probably back this up. And Donald, you've been through this before too. When you work for that company that all of a sudden seems like it's competing with itself with another company, your days are numbered usually. Like something's going on over on they're moving stuff that should be here over there. Why is this going on? And your bosses are like, don't worry, everything's fine. And the next thing you know, you show up at work and the doors are locked and the lights are off.
Which we've actually been through. Like we've actually been through that. I've been through that 3 or 4 times in my career. So
I've definitely had experience with that. I was a manager of a GameStop at one point. Actually, it was owned by GameStop at named Babbage's. Anywho, we had 3 stores after EB Games had purchased Funko and a couple of others. We basically had 3 stores within a mile of each other. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, okay, who's going to go? Who's going to go? Who's going to And yeah, certainly enough, all of a sudden they started moving stuff over to one store, and then we got our answer. That's not a good sign. Oh, that's where I started off at, Funkoland, when it was owned by Dave Pomajay, I think his name was. And he sold to EB Games, and good times.
Yep, 1994. I used to open up stores. I was opening up stores in the Houston district.
Oh, okay. I got in for the Dreamcast launch, so $99.99 was like my first day. And I went from game advisor to assistant manager real quick. And right now I'm a supervisor. And the whole reason I even stumbled upon my career in quote unquote leadership, and this is going to go dark here, I apologize, but the assistant manager at the time went to jail for rape. So the manager looks over at me one day and says, "Hey Don, you come to work on time and you don't steal stuff. Would you like to be an assistant manager?"
Hey, you don't look like a felon.
So the lesson, boys and girls, is be on time to work and don't steal.
Right, and wait for someone to commit a felony who's above you, and you can take their spot.
I guess my point really is, it just feels like there's all these rumors circulating, and they are like putting stuff that should be going on the DC app in other places.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the nose. Yeah, the nail on the nose. Sure, there. Let's mix those metaphors. I think you hit it on the head, though. Basically, it's everybody sees Disney Plus coming down the pike. They're nervous and they're looking for partners to base. I mean, this is the argument against any antitrust action ever. It's, well, we have to get bigger no matter what, because we have to get bigger because somebody else got bigger.
Right.
And Disney Plus is literally the only one of these streaming services that has enough content that people will want to pay every month for it for longer than, the length of one show. All the rest of these streaming services, CBS and DC Universe and everything else, they've all got they're one trick ponies. We open this one trick. We're opening Picard. Do you want to see it? Oh yeah, I'll wait until you have all the episodes available. I'll pay for a month. I'll binge them and then goodbye. But Disney Plus is like, well, yeah, if you want Disney movies on demand and you've got kids, that's where you're going to go.
Right. And actually, I think I saw another article this week that I forgot to include was the Joker movie is going to first, when it hits streaming, is going to go to HBO Max. And it's like, really? Like what?
That's not important.
Yeah, like that that speaks volumes to me. So I just it's one of those things you kind of hope they'll just finally be straight and be like, okay, we're going to just merge everything together into one platform, because that makes the most sense, right? If they have the Warner Brothers stuff, they have the HBO stuff, and they have the DC stuff, just merge it into one platform then, You'll have more content that people might actually want, put all those DC shows that people seem to like for the most part on there.
I'm sure that's going to happen. It's just they got to keep people from jumping ship until they're ready. So they've probably got some executives telling their managers, oh, no, tell your people it's all going to be fine. And then when they're ready to deal with mass exodus, they will.
Welcome to corporate America, boys and girls. All right.
You're only useful till you're not.
So this is something I wanted to do last week, but we kind of ran out of time. And we're running a little long, but not as long as last week. I wanted to bring up a discussion topic. I wanted to talk about one of the terms that has been floating around a lot lately, and that's, of course, cancel culture, right? The idea that
our Twitter just got set on fire.
The idea that people don't like something, so they kind of band together to get it canceled. And there's a plethora of reasons why people don't like things, and it comes from both sides, and they just, again, band together. And I kind of felt like there were two stories that came out recently that maybe is pointing towards corporations not necessarily caring about these people complaining on the internet anymore. I could be wrong, but we shall see. So the first story, of course, was Batwoman, who on the CW, which I know John and I are watching. Are you watching it, Don?
I did see some episodes. Yeah, actually, it's pretty good.
So obviously there are people who didn't like it. I think there are people who don't read comics and don't understand that this is an existing character. They didn't create her and all that jazz. Review bombed it on, of course, Rotten Tomatoes, to give it a poor rating, to get it canceled. But the CW turned around within that same week and ordered a full 22 episode season, for the show. Because obviously their CW said, no, we got enough viewers to keep this thing going. Let's keep it going. Let's not worry about what people online are saying. So I thought that was a positive thing. And of course, the other story was Jeremy Renner, who is getting a divorce from his wife and is in the middle of a really bad custody battle, to say the least. And of course, his ex-wife has accused him of a bunch of things. And because of this, there have been people online saying, we got to cut him out as Hawkeye. He has to be replaced. And, Disney basically came out and said, nope, he's our Hawkeye. We're going to stick with him for now. Because again, he was being accused by his ex-wife. We've all have exes that have accused us of terrible things that we didn't do. That's my question. That's the topic, basically. Do we think cancel culture is a good thing or a bad thing? And does it seem like maybe, because it has worked, there have been definitely times it's worked in the past.
Well, no. See, there's two different types. There's two different angles for this cancel culture thing. There's the side that goes on to Rotten Tomatoes and is trying to basically get Batwoman or went against Captain Marvel and basically, are just tanking the reviews and trying to run them out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the other side, which basically looks for the other side is the ones that, okay, Jeremy Renner, or, name a sports player, right?
Uh-huh.
That they just got caught beating their wives or doing something incredibly horrible, or incredibly racist, and people don't want that as something, as a symbol for that thing that they like, sports, or in this case the Marvel movies, right? So, I mean, now, this cancel culture does depend on people jumping on stuff really quick. You know, there's a marketing part of it where, you know, if you can get social media on fire as quick as possible, you can get a lot of people upset very quickly and make it look like it's bigger than it is. And that's basically the way social media works these days. Is people read something, they don't read the details, they just read the title, and it's like, oh my God, he did that. Well, he's got to go. And they, you know, there could be mitigating factors. There could be stuff. You know, one of the problems with the cancel culture is like when a lot of right wing media people go after left wing people by going through their Twitter or their MySpace, looking for something, anything that they can post. And this happened recently where I forget who it was. They were 16 when they said something really stupid and racist. They were, and they were now like in their mid to late 20s, and they were fired from a job because of it. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you know, so he's 16. That fact never came through. It was just, they did this. There was no factoring in of time, of age, or anything. And that's all, cancel culture. A lot of the people that are in this cancel culture rely on that. And that's a problem, because at this point in time, we are now having entire generations come through where we're trying to figure out how long does it take for you to forgive somebody? When is somebody allowed to be held responsible for what they've said online, you know, based on how old they are, how long ago it was, you know, has there been enough time where they could have really changed, that sort of thing? Am I making sense here?
Yeah, you are, to me at least, and it's definitely a product of this new age that we're in with the internet, because if you think back, no one ever said that William Shatner shouldn't play Captain Kirk. Yet, him and his wife were in the middle of a horrible divorce. She drowns in a pool, and by all accounts, when the authorities get there, William Shatner's not even wet, meaning that he obviously didn't do anything to help. Now, if he did something like that in today's age, where with the power of the internet, everybody of like mind can become one hive mind, and then boom, form this counterculture, go on to whatever site, get you banned, come up with this huge campaign that blows up the problem bigger than it probably is, and convinces an advertiser or a company that they need to get rid of this person because of this action. So I think that the whole counterculture is made possible by the fact that, again, we can contact each other in nanoseconds, and we can all congregate as like minds, become a hive mind, and focus our anger or our trolling ability on one particular person.
Yeah, and like for your example with William Shatner, right? That would have been TMZ going, "Oh my God, this is going to generate so many clicks," and the next thing you know, Shatner would be fired, and that before even an investigation could be started, let alone have finished and come to any conclusions. So, you know, that, and again, that's one side. Like, okay, so that's a media. So maybe there's three. There's the media side of it where, you know, oh, something sensational happened. Let's get clicks. Don't leave room for any facts. Just get the clicks and get people angry because that generates money for us. There's that. There's the people that go out of their way to target specific people because of their politics. And then there's what I think is, you know, has a lot of validity behind it. The side where you've got somebody who's done something incredibly horrible, like Roman Polanski, who's still winning awards, and yet the guy's a rapist.
Right.
So a pedophile and a rapist. So, you know, it's, you know, and again, using Roman Polanski as an example, how many people have actually been canceled? Not many. So Roman Polanski, James Gunn, you know, there's not many that have actually been really hurt by this.
So There have been a few. And I think the most because a comparison I can give to, Jeremy Renner is Chris Hardwick. Again, he was accused of stuff by his ex, and he was basically, booted out of the company he started after this. And then after investigation, nope, it was found out that none of what she said was true. So it's like that, yes, he still is podcasting and he's still, doing his comedy and whatnot. But that definitely affected him at the time that it happened, so that basically my other point was going to be that you go back 20 years ago, you made your voice heard by not buying the product. You didn't agree with something about it,
Right. And it had to be a grassroots thing where, literally, there was very few ways to organize those types of things. And so it was individuals.
But again, it's not, the point is that, okay, you don't agree with something this person did, then you don't go spend your money on it. But the idea that you don't want other people to spend their money on it and that you should have a say in that is where, I think the issue
but you're mixing up two different sides of it, right? So there's the one side where it's not just you. Take for example, Jeremy Renner. Okay. So if all of that's true and he really did harm his wife and all that, right? That's not just me saying, hey, maybe he shouldn't play that role anymore because he's a role model for kids and somebody like that shouldn't be in the spotlight. That would be other people feeling the same way because they have the same moral judgment on that situation.
So then you just
compared to a bunch of kids passing around phone numbers and web links on 4chan to basically get something like Batwoman canceled, right? There's a difference between those two. One is you're canceling it because you got a bunch of butthurt guys who don't like gay people on TV, and the other is, hey, this is an actual moral dilemma that we have here. This is an actual problem. People should not be working in the industry that are doing horrible things.
I agree with the idea of, people who do horrible things should be punished. But my point is, it's not up to people on the internet to punish that person.
Well, yeah, but again, the way those
all they have to do is say, don't go see the movie.
Yeah,
but to sit there and demand Disney fire him is different.
Well, yeah, but the way those movements happen is that what the person did gets around and everybody feels the same way, that they shouldn't be there anymore. And then that's when the action starts, right?
But I'm saying is that the action starts and everybody doesn't feel that way.
Well, there has to be enough people that feel that way for there to be a movement. So
okay, so let's say there's 100 million people that go see Endgame, and there's 10,000 people who are upset, but they're the vocal minority on the internet.
Well, that's the thing, though. They're the minority. So if you got 10,000 people,
but that's the whole thing, is that companies were listening to the people who were being vocal online, while other people were like, "I don't care, it's a movie. I just go see it."
Yeah, that's the other side of the problem, is the companies that are so skittish about their images and about their bottom lines, and they will immediately take action without thinking anything through first. That's basically, James Gunn being the perfect example of that.
Right, and that's the point I was getting to, isn't necessarily the assholes online, they're going to do it no matter what. The point I was originally bringing up is, should companies listen to them? And it seems like here's two examples where companies are like, no, screw you. We're going to continue with what we're doing.
Well, yeah, the companies should listen to them, but they should do it responsibly. Like with James Gunn, they pulled the trigger so fast that they they hadn't realized he was even gone before they found out that it was, wrong. Compare that with, like, say, Roseanne Barr, where they thought about it and they put it on hiatus, and they finally got rid of her because of the very, very bad things that she was saying. So,
well, again, the major difference there, A, is that was current things she was saying.
Yes.
B, she tried to blame Ambien for it. and
Ambien came out and said, this is not one of our side effects. We have a lot, but not racism.
It wasn't one tweet. It was a load of them that got to that point. It was, so yeah, there was a definite difference between the two situations. But like, yeah, exactly. But again, going back to Chris Hardwick, like, they dropped him quickly before anyone investigated what was going on. And
right. And that again was some right-wing think tank that got pissed off at him, and they literally did oppo research on him, found whatever dirt they could, and then put together a movement. It wasn't a groundswell of people. It was astroturfing, and basically they embarrassed the company as fast and as much as possible to get the reaction that they were hoping for, which was immediately getting rid of him before any facts or any investigation was done, and that's the problem. And that was a problem on both sides. It was the company's reaction, and it was the people that started that to begin with.
Yeah, so definitely kudos, them for sticking with their guns with the Batgirl, because they should do their due diligence of, and determine, is this actually a grassroots thing where it's affecting all these people, or is it like the old Howard Stern days, where these Christian groups would have one person listen to the show, and he says there's some horrible thing like Jennifer Aniston has Aniston has a rancid cunt, and then so boom, they go into action, and the one person that heard that then writes a letter to 1,000 people to have those 1,000 people write letters to 1,000 peoples, and then for everybody to then flood the radio station or the FCC with complaints, but really only one person heard this. So, yeah.
And as we know, Howard Stern never worked in radio again.
Right. Exactly.
And these companies, like, I guess by now the companies are, I'd like to say growing up, except they still do stupid shit, but they're, in this case, they're learning from experience, unfortunately, and they're slowing down the process of terminating somebody when when this kind of thing happens, or terminating the show, right? So that's good. At least the companies are learning, and they're starting to be more responsive about it, because it could hurt their bottom line even worse when they do something, really stupid without thinking about it, without checking to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think Disney was heading for a rude awakening if they didn't bring James Gunn back for the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and so I definitely think that's one example of them maybe rethinking it, slowing down, and saying, okay, you know what, we're going to lose a ton of money if we try to put another director on this. I mean, even the actors themselves, there's just a huge groundswell of support for James Gunn. So I would just feel bad for anybody that doesn't have that support, and then a company, jumps to conclusions.
Yeah, and that's still a problem, because what was it that drove them to rehire him back? That they would lose a ton of money. Not that they were wrong.
Right.
But they would lose money.
I think that's probably true. I also think, in all honesty, I said this before and I'll say it again, that was the fault of whoever is in charge of tracking that kind of stuff on social media over at Disney and Marvel, and like when they hired James Gunn, not turning to him before he signed the contract and saying, just delete those tweets. Like, obviously other people found them and reposted them, so it wouldn't have been too hard for their person to find them and say, hey, you know what? People might question this. Let's just delete this before you sign the contract, And I'm sure he gladly would have done it. So, yeah, cover your ass.
Well, yeah, but again, like I feel like we're still toddlers in this new age where our society is still trying to figure out how we're going to deal with this effectively and maturely, because we still don't know, okay, like how long ago does somebody have to have said something for it to not really count against them now? And well, I think the whole thing gets situational, because it's going to depend on, has a person ever said they were sorry? Was it 5 years? What are they doing now? Yeah, it's just, it's going to be a case by case basis, and it's going to take the companies, the targets, and basically society as a whole to be able to start judging these things properly and watching out for people that are trying to use it to their advantage.
I totally agree. And that's one of the things I think is scary as well, is like there are kids who are growing up and their whole lives are online.
Yep.
And like what happens when one of those kids decides they want to go direct a movie, they want to go do whatever and
become a politician, right?
Become a politician, of course. And
just get hired for a regular job these days. I mean,
and again, I don't know how much you can defend and whatnot. I do believe there's a very solemn idea that if it's not something you can say to your mother, or at least say in mixed company, don't put it online.
Unless it's Facebook, then put it on there.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're at work and it's something you would think twice about saying out loud to a group of coworkers, then you probably shouldn't be putting it online. That being said, we've all in our past have said and done something stupid in a social situation, but it was done and gone usually the next day. This is stuff that's going to be on there forever for some of these kids. And it's like, wow, I just can't imagine like some of the stupid stuff I did when I was a kid. If people could just say, hey, look at this and pull it up real quick.
Yeah. If there were pictures of it and, yeah.
Not just pictures, but pictures that are online, or just something you said stupid when you were drunk, and all of a sudden it's on a Facebook post that's out there forever. I feel bad for these kids. God, no one's teaching them, don't do that.
You just slightly related to this. I gotta tell you guys this, because I know we're running a little bit late here, and we still got an interview.
Yes.
And this should interest you guys. While I was at the showing of the Joker, right? As I usually do, I talk to people around me. And one of the guys there made mention of Batwoman, and they were upset about the PC police, the forcing, making the character, gay, lesbian, and
what?
And and when I informed them that, Batwoman has always been a lesbian. That's part of the character. That's the way the character was created. That's when they kind of like gave me the quizzical look and then stopped talking, basically.
You know what they did? They watched The Killing Joke, and where him and Batman and Batwoman hooked up, and that must be their basis, or Batgirl.
Yeah.
Right. And that must be their basis.
So that's one of the things, and it's also why some of the outrage over Batwoman ticks me off, is that because our geek culture has become pop culture, the people don't read the source material that these things come from, and they just automatically go, oh my God, they made Batman a woman and then made her gay to make it PC.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. Batwoman is a separate character in the comics, has been for a long time, and she's always been a lesbian. Like, don't get outraged and start your cancel culture movement before you understand the source material that you're complaining about. Sorry.
Just wait till till they do it to Captain Marvel, and people are going to start going, "What are you talking about? Captain Marvel's a lesbian?" What? Yeah, she's in the source material, buddy. She's gone that way before.
Oh, she's polyamorous, so.
So yeah, it's just, yeah, I don't know. Yes. So long story short, too late. Yeah, just like think before you put stuff out there.
Well, we got the internet, for God's sakes. Google it, Wikipedia.
That's what drives me nuts, is that people just read a headline and then start complaining, yet they're sitting on the internet that's got all the information in the world on it, and they can easily just look up Batwoman, go to the Wikipedia page and go, oh.
But that's not what people are going to do, because they're too busy being mad. People we don't teach critical thinking in the United States anymore. So there's no thought of maybe I should check and see if this is correct, or I should get more information on this. It's I'm outraged. I'm going to take action on that outrage, and that's it right there.
Right. Just like you're outraged that Han gave the Millennium Falcon to a girl. I understand.
I don't have any outrage about that. My only outrage is, if you're talking Hans Zimmer, yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay.
I'm completely enraged when I talk about him.
That's so funny. That is so funny.
I really can't wait to hear what JD has to say about all of this. All right.
Yeah, coming this Friday, a special episode. JD's reply.
Just JD's reply and a half hour of him calling us idiots. I can see it. All right, boys and girls. To wrap this week up, John has a special interview that he got at New York Comic Con.
Yes, it's a very special interview. So yeah, I caught the Stabbity Bunny guys at the convention, and they were in Artist Alley, which was great for them from what they had told me. And they had a script, or I don't know what I don't know what you'd call it. It was a comic book, but it hadn't been bound. It was all just outlines, a sheaf of outlines of the comic book itself, and they let me read it. So it's not released, won't be released for a little bit longer, I believe, in December. And it was going to be an issue of their Stabbity Bunny comic, but because of the sensitive nature of what it was going to be dealing with, they took it out of that rotation, and they're going to release it as a special edition. So, without further ado, here's Richard Rivera and company and Stabbity Bunny and the comic that they're going to put out.
So, this is John O'Grady, superheroespeak.com at the New York Comic Con 2019. And I am sitting here with
Richard Rivera.
No.
It's ready to go. All right.
Yeah, it's all set.
Okay.
So Stabbity Bunny. We've talked to you guys before.
Yes.
Love your work.
Thank you.
Little bunny that gets a little stabby. And, a really good storyline, as a matter of fact. You're still figuring, as a reader, I'm still figuring stuff out, trying to figure out where it's going. We've gotten a lot of good reveals. And, but we're here to talk about another work that you're working on.
Well, I mean, we can talk about everything. I mean, because it's kind of all tied together with the story you've read so far.
Yep.
Kind of had a pause. I had some medical issues, and we fell behind on some deadlines, but we've geared back up, and we have a number of them in our inventory, so we'll be rolling out monthly going forward. The issue 9 will be out in January. However, we had another issue, and I pulled that issue out of the regular numbering and made it a one-shot, and it's actually coming out in December. On that particular issue, we just felt that there's nothing untoward. It's just that we felt that the intensity of the issue and some of the subject matter might be for parents to decide when they want to discuss such things, or and some readers that might be more comfortable with that issue as a one-shot. But also, it also acts as a jumping on point, if you will, for someone to enjoy just that issue. While you won't understand every character, the story itself is based on one of the minor characters, and I don't like to really say minor character, but a character that doesn't often get the spotlight.
Yep.
And so as a result, he really drives that story, and you can enjoy that story on its own. And if you're intrigued by some of the other characters you see, the other issues are out there in trade paperback and available at a bookstore near you.
And now, I got the chance to read it, and I'm not going to reveal anything unless you give me the nod.
Okay,
right?
all right.
But it is a very sensitive subject, and it's very relevant to today, and unfortunately, and it was very well done.
Well, thank you.
And very tastefully handled. What made you? I mean,
well, even we even in the previews blurb, it does say it's based, Emmett and his relationship, and they're the victims of a hate crime, and the consequences of that. And I've had a number of people read the story, and it's been really well received, pretty much across the board.
Yeah.
And like I said, the conversation is one that needs to happen, but I want parents to decide if they want to have that conversation now or ever. But just the subject, has to do with bigotry and violence targeted upon people, simply because of who they are, not because of what they've done. And it's a sad truth, and I think it's something that's always existed in humankind in one way or the other. Unfortunately, we also have the brighter lights as well. So it's always a balance, and I guess we all just strive towards better understanding.
And it's not like this kind of social commentary is, new to comics. I mean, all of Marvel storylines started basically based on, the other, like mutants being
the outsiders,
treated like outsiders, and the social problems that arose from that. Basically bigotry and
right, the different, and I guess the point of the story, and even the same thing with as you say, mutants, etc., is to just realize that the other really isn't all that different. Our foundation as human beings is the same, and it's easy to, I think, in the modern day world, especially with the little snippets we see of everything, I think it's easy to dehumanize people and make individuals, comic book characters, or they're thought of, Joe the plumber guy or whatever. But Joe has a mortgage, and Joe has a child with epilepsy, or it's just we all have the same problems. We all are human.
It's usually based on fear and ignorance, in a way, where like the more you know about people, even the people you disagree with, the more you realize that you're all human, and there's really not much of a difference between you at all.
Right, and sometimes the discomfort comes from how comfortable we feel with ourselves too. So, but I guess more about the story.
Oh, sure.
Like I said, the story is based on Emmett. Emmett, we've seen 2 other times in the series so far. One time when he's the mechanic who was fixing the car up before they went to visit his great-grandfather, and he's also himself and Wally we both saw when they were getting ready for the Labor Day celebration and holiday. Mm-hmm. So we've seen that, and then we saw that Wally is, Emmett's other half. Actually, he is his husband, and just unfortunately, Wally is the victim of a hate crime, and the story kind of deals with those consequences and the journey that Emmett has trying to deal with that. And we'll say that he does get the opportunity to make a bargain of sorts, and the road that takes him down.
Mm-hmm. And it's a testament to how deep, like I said, I've read Stabbity Bunny to the point where, Ausicon, I came up with my mouth foaming going, where's the new stuff? But the storyline is deeper than just, your normal comic. And you've got all these other side plot lines going on too in your head, or, So it's nice to see it branching out even.
Well, and there's going to be several other characters that get their story. That's why we kind of started with Emmett's story. There'll be Glyph's story. Apparently he's one of the main villains, but we'll see how true that is, which is going to blow some people's minds, but I don't want to ruin anything. But, we only about 10% of what I've written as far as backgrounds and histories and what's going on ever makes it to the books. And some of these other stories are going to kind of be inserted to where you can get a better feel for those characters and kind of see things from their perspective, which is going to be eye-opening too, I hope. But as far as the book is concerned, in this particular title, we hope that people read it and that it does have an impact on a few folks, and whether it be just kind of cathartic or whether it be eye-opening, I don't know. I don't want to presume. I'm just trying to tell a good comic book story and try to be sensitive, as you said, to a lot of the pitfalls that the soapbox can bring. So it really is thought out a lot of the details and tried to make it to where it was the best presentation of the story we could do.
So when is this going to be out?
Well, it's in previews catalog right now. The one that comes out for the beginning of October there.
Mm-hmm.
It will be released in stores in December. So you can get your stores to order it now. And I think it's going to be under-ordered. I think it's going to be a book that might be harder to find. So if you're kind of interested in the story, you might want to have your store special order it for you.
Mm-hmm. And you also have another one here, the one with more Stabby for the Stabbity Bunnies.
Well, we've done Stabbity Ever After, and Stabbity Ever After is for those people who want... I did an Elseworlds of my own book, and those characters... Hold on.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
No.
I needed to sign a book.
Yep. No, we get the full experience here. Yep.
So, yes, Stabbity Ever After is more like Looney Tunes meets Kill Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're being honest with ourselves, we all realize that the Wile E. Coyote was not trying to hug the Roadrunner. So it's all right, I think. We've got, there we have much more straightforward graphic violence. But again, as I say, it's almost so absurd that it doesn't necessarily hit that same chord as Friday the 13th, etc. Because, well, spoiler alert, a very obnoxious unicorn presuming to be king of the unicorns and standing in the way of Stabbity trying to get to Grace and save her, gets beheaded.
Yeah,
and even as his head tumbles and his purple unicorn blood is flying everywhere, he says, oops.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
but it is that extra bit of, violence that people were looking for when they see Stabbity Bunny.
Right, and working with Ryan has been so much fun. We're doing...
He did the artistry? Or
Yes, artwork for it. Ryan Kincaid.
Yep.
And RyanMKincaid.com.
Yep.
The next issue, we've almost finished that one. That one is going to be out in stores in November, and it's Stabbity Ever After Wonderland, which is where the last page is of the first issue. After Wonderland, we go to Oz, and then rumor has it there might be an Oz Wonderland war.
Oh, no.
So, caused by Stabbity's shenanigans. So, yeah, I did an Elseworlds of my own story, and the Stabbity falls through a magical portal, and as he tumbles, he has a transformation, and he gets to where he can move, etc., which he cannot do in the regular book. And he still can't talk, but he can unashamedly do anything that the Looney Tunes kind of character can, including, objects out of nowhere, and most of the time it's a knife or another sharp object.
You said he had everything he needed behind his back, right?
Right, exactly. So, we're having a lot of fun with that, and it's kind of, the other is a very structured horror mystery, and this one is just so completely freestyle. It's kind of like that's untrue to an extent, because I can't help but have something holding it together and have an idea in my mind of what threads go through it. But as I do get down to the details of writing each issue, if, like with the first issue, it pops into my mind to make some really obnoxious, self-absorbed pixies based on the characters of Top Gun, then I can. So expect a lot more off-the-wall antics and zany, cartoony, super killy violent fun in Stabbity Ever After, and a more thoughtful, structured, layered horror mystery story in the regular series Stabbity Bunny.
Awesome. All right, so when we normally sign off on these, and I'm being forced by my co-host to say this. When we normally sign off on our normal podcast, we say, "Don't let your cape get caught in the door." Now, it started off as basically just a thing, but over the years, it's come to mean, "Don't let things get in your way to what you want to get done." So, and I know you've had some challenges. What are some of the challenges that you've had to, get past in order to get where you guys are today on the floor of the Artist Alley of New York Comic Con selling your books out?
Well, we'll start at the beginning, I guess. The 101 of everything is whether you're an artist or a writer or both, or a color artist or a letterer. Don't forget the letters, people. They're very, very important.
I've seen.
It's just get stuff done, finish something. Even if, never worry about tweaking it so much to perfection that you don't get it done. Even if you don't like it when you step away a few years later, that's all right. But get it done. And then move on to the next thing. Use that to learn for your next experience. Getting the book out, etc. Finding other people to work with. There's different ways to do that. There's different styles of it that work. Stay true to your personality and approach them from that standpoint. Don't try to change your personality to work with somebody else. Certainly accommodate theirs. Certainly be sensitive to theirs. But be you as you do it, and it'll really help propel you forward. As far as simple things, simple. I had the health issues, and as a result, I'm working with other people, and they can't put their lives on hold for 3 or 4 months. So sometimes you've got to jump back on when you can. We're going to be finishing the last issue of Shadowplay, number 6. Will be out sometime early next year. We're going to be working on that in December. That's a fair gap between 5 and 6, but we do finish our storylines, and we make sure that it gets out there. It's just that other projects come up, and the artist had a great opportunity, and she's Clara Meath, and she worked with Aftershock on Midnight Vista. I had to pause on that because Scout also did a book that we've worked on for a while that came out the same week called Midnight Sky.
No.
So I don't want to get the two confused. I make connections, work with people. And for me, I think the initial difficulty was just finding out how best to network and to get with people and to get the other pieces, get the other pieces of the story done with people who had the skills to accomplish that.
Okay.
So that probably wasn't the question, but there you go.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a good answer. All right. So where can people find your stuff?
Anywhere comics are sold. If your comic book store doesn't order it already, you can ask them to order it. You can also, if you want a more direct line to it, you go to scoutcomics.com. Scoutcomics.com has all the back issues pretty much, and a lot of the variants, and, just a great, great source for that. If you want to just keep abreast of the information that's going out there, then Stabbity Bunny on Facebook is probably the one thing we use the most. We're trying our best to also tweet and to use some Instagram here and there, but I apologize for our anemic presence on either of those two. But as I said, help us out. Maybe follow us, and we'll get a wider audience and more motivation to go for that. Yeah. Right now on Facebook with 11,000 plus followers, that is our focus.
Nice.
But we need to work on the others. That's our fault, not your fault, and we'll be working on it. Putting content out there for people to follow and like.
Okay. Thank you for sitting down with us, and good luck with the rest of this weekend.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, and you guys keep doing your good work, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks.
John, that was a beautiful interview. You are the master.
Jeez. My gosh. But yeah, again, what do you know what it's called when this is like, I guess what they'd send to a printer. It wasn't even colored, so they'd have to send it to a colorer first.
Was it like a storyboard or a draft, I guess?
It looked like storyboarding, but it was, it had the lines all set up.
So it was
for
penciled.
borders. Yeah, it was penciled. Everything was there except the color, and then it wasn't even cut. The paper was larger. So I don't know what you call it. But,
Yeah, I mean, that's the draft pages, and then they have to be inked and colored, and then.
Yeah, but sound like it still needed to be inked. Yeah.
So that's the first time I ever saw something like that, and they were so gracious to let me read it. During the Comic-Con, I just sat behind their booth, and it was really cool. And they handled the situation that in the comic book very, very well. As you probably heard. Well, I was really impressed with it, and I'm going to definitely buy a copy when it comes out.
So John, I forgot to tell you, I was down in Artist Alley, I think the day before you did the interview, and just walking around saying hi to everyone we know, and I ran into those guys, and I was saying hello, and they said, "Oh," like the first question was, "Where's John?" And then it was, "We have something we want to show John."
Well, I like those guys. They're really cool.
So they could care less about me, but they like you for some reason.
Well, yeah. So, right.
So on that note, boys and girls, we're going to wrap up here. Do you guys have anything you want to add before we wrap up? Don, where can people find you online? And, of course, plug your podcast as well.
Yeah, well, you can always go, of course, on Twitter at @DSquare72. So D, the word square, numeral 72. My link to my YouTube will be on there. Haven't been able to hook up with my brother for a while, so it's actually been a number of weeks since we did our show. But I definitely do have reviews up there, Powers of 10, House of X, all the Dawn of X titles so far, which will be some more coming out tomorrow. So you can definitely check me out at my Twitter, again, at DSquare72. We'll give you all the pertinent information you need. Of course, I always will retweet the reviews I do on superheroespeak.com. So make sure that you check out that website to not only see my reviews, which, Dave has been very complimentary of, and I thank you for that, but also other great, pieces of news and rants and stuff. But that's where you can primarily check me out on Twitter and superheroespeak.com.
Cool.
Very cool.
John, you have anything you would like to add before we sign off?
No, go see Joker. Don't go to see it as a comic book movie. Go to see it as a very deep and dark movie, and it's an entertaining movie.
Cool. All right. And I will recommend, of course, people go check out superheroespeak.com. Make sure you're following us on the Twitters and the social medias, and go watch My Name is Dolomite on Netflix. Again, yeah. I was so pleasantly surprised by that movie. It was really good. I think Wesley Snipes wins that movie, and he totally shocked me. So yeah, go check it out. So on that note, boys and girls, as always, thanks for listening, and don't let your cake caught in the door. Have a good week.